Hello. Now I will go over our code base. I will start by talking about app.js file. In this file, we simply require all the packages that we will be using in this project, and also we set up and run our server at port 3000. The next thing I would like to show is our package.json. I will go over the packages very quickly. We're using bytecrypt to encrypt our usernames, passwords, and the body parser. We're using this package for the same reasons we'll be using it for all the past assignments. And for the cookie parser, we use it to authenticate the user, express to set up and run our server, the handlebar to manipulate the data that will be displayed for the user. And these two packages, we were trying to use them to be able, so we can do photo upload feature in our project, but we ended up using Malter, which allows us to change the name to whichever we want, and also where we want to save the photo. And MongoDB, for obvious reasons, is our database, and the UUID to give each user and each recipe a unique ID, and the XSS to increase security measurements in our project. Next, I will talk about index.js file. In this file, we do most of our work. So for instance, we require all the packages we will be using in this file, such as the UUID and the bcrypt package. And also, we start by setting up the connection to our Mongo database. And then we go downstairs and we set up the handlebars as well in this file. And the next thing we do is the following. We have some validation functions to validate the username and email addresses. And here we have our middleware to see if the user is authenticated or not. And then the next route we have is the root route. We don't have any page associated to this route. All we do is simply check if the user is authenticated or not. If yes, then we take them to the upload page. If not, we take them to the login page. Now, the next route we have is the login route. Again, we simply check if the user is authenticated or not. If yes, we take them to the upload page. If not, we render the same page. Now, in the .post login route, we take whatever info the user has entered for the username and password and check. If we have that username, then we take them to the next page. If not, then we tell the user that the username doesn't exist or that the password they have entered is wrong. That's what we normally do in this route, and we have the associated error message. Okay, now the next route is the .get new user route, and again we check if the user is authenticated. Then we take them to the upload. If not, we render the same page, the new user page. Now, in the .post new user route, we do a couple of checks. First, we check if the user has entered a valid username and a valid email address. If they provide an invalid username, we render the same page and tell them that they have entered an invalid username. The same thing we will render, but with a different error message if they entered an invalid email address. And then if they provided both a valid email address and username, then we go to the next step. In this part of the code, we check: do we have that username in our database or not? Because we want all of our usernames to have unique usernames, all of our users to have unique usernames. So we check if we have that user or not. If the username doesn't exist, that means we can go here and give the user a unique ID, hash their password, and then we set the cookie for that user, like all of this page, all of this like 5 lines of code, and we get the username in order to add it when they add a comment, and then we add the user to the database, and then we redirect the user to the upload page. Else, we render the same page with this error message. The next route is the .get logout page. All we do is expire the cookie, and then yeah, that's basically what we do. We render the page logout.handlebar, and we expire the cookie. So far, we have looked at all of the users routes, all the routes related to users, and now we will be talking about all the routes related to recipes. The first one is the .get upload. All we do is check if the user is authenticated, then we render this page. I'm sorry. If not, we render the new user page. Now, the next one, the next part of our code is the Malter code. The first thing we do is we set the destination where we want to save that photo. And the next thing we do is we change the file name, we append to it the hyphen, and then we give it a date, and then the path extension. And the next step of our code is to construct upload by assigning the storage, which has all of this info. And we use that in the next route, the .post upload. And this route is associated to 2 files. The first file is the upload.js and the upload.handlebar. In this file, we only construct the form. And just to note that this is the name we will be giving to each image that the user is going to upload. And then we manipulate or deal with all of this info thanks to a couple of lines here, specifically this line, which will give us connection to this file. This file, we simply construct our recipe object, and then once the user hits a submit button, we first prevent the default behavior of the button to not to post, so that we can get all the values that the user has entered in the form, and we can do whatever we want. For example, to see if they have given the recipe a rating or not while they upload it. If no, then this message will be shown. If they do provide a rating, then it's going to be added to the array ratings, and then we do some error checking to see if the user has provided a valid input. And then before I go to the actual request, I'll go down to show you what we do. So for example, for the check ingredients tag, we do the following. We get the name and the quantity. We put them in the object, and this object will be checked for any kind of error checking. If something wrong, then this alert will be shown. if they entered an invalid name. The same thing if they entered an invalid quantity. If everything goes fine, we append it to the page so that it's shown to the user, and at the same time we add it to this array, the object.ingredients array. The same thing we do with the steps array. We do some error checking and then we add it to the array. And at the bottom we have some functions with some regex to do user input validation. And now when we go to here, we have this request. We use form data so that we can do two things, so that we can send the photo and also send our object. We gave it the name obj so that in the index.js, we can access the file thanks to this line, and then we can access the object thanks to this line. And then we can do whatever we want. We assign a unique ID, and then the rest, such as assigning the path of the photo to the recipe object, and then we add it to the database. And the next one is the .get search. Again, we do some, we check if the user is authenticated or not. And now the next route is the .post search. Also, this file is associated to other two files, the search.js and the search.handlebar. We add this line at the end so that we can control this form in this file. So the first thing we do is we hide some tags based on the user's choice, and then once we know what the user wants to search by, we show either a drop-down menu or a text field, and then here we construct this object. The first thing will hold what category the user wants to search by name, by ingredients, time, chef, or whatever. And then this is the keyword that will be given to the database to retrieve values. Okay, and then we do the very same thing. We stop the default behavior for the submit button, and then we do some error checking, and then we check which category the user wants to search by, and then we send that in this request, in this post request, to the same URL. This is our request for this route. Now, the next route is going to be the .get recipe. This route doesn't have a page to be rendered, so we check if the user is authenticated, then we render the search page. If not authenticated, then we render the redirect to the login page. Okay? And then the next route we have is the .get recipe by ID. Again, we check if the user is authenticated or not. If yes, then we check, do we have in this if statement, do we have that recipe with that ID or not? If we don't, then we render the error message. If we have it, then we simply display its information by rendering the recipe info.handlebar page. And this if statement is to check if that recipe has been rated or not. So this one will be rendered if the recipe has never been rated. If it has been rated, then this will be rendered instead. We calculate the average, or in other words, the rating for this recipe, and then we send it in this request. And the next route is the router.patch recipe by ID. So all we do is that we grab what the user has entered, okay, and we want to check, has the user given this recipe a ratings or not? If yes, then we go down here and we update the comments and the rating. If not, we only update the comments for that recipe. And this route is also connected to two files, the recipe info.js, and we do some error checking for the comments section, just in case the user enters some weird symbols. Then we catch that and throw an alert telling them it's an invalid input. If everything is fine, we complete the patch request. And this is the handlebar file that is also connected to that route. We have here the form or the page elements or the page tags, along with what is going to be sent, such as this, that ID, or the name, ingredients, steps, servings, etc. Now, the dot patch route is the last route we have in our project. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you so much.